Welcome to the Soulful Mystics podcast. I'm Steph.
And I'm Julie. And we are intuitive hypnotists, sharing our journey along the way. Hello, everyone. I'm Julie, and it's so good to be back. Our April break extended into May, and we deeply appreciate your understanding and patience. Steph will be joining me in our next episode, so today it's just me. I ask that you all take a moment to send healing energy to Steph. She's been navigating a tough time of change and grief. While she moved into her dream home in April, she also faced the heartbreaking loss of her beloved pups, Roxy and Cooper, both unexpectedly. Steph is an amazing person with the biggest heart, and she continues to foster dogs through her work with Sit With Me Rescue. One of her new fosters, Wave, a sweet little pitty puppy, recently had surgery for a hernia. Donations to help with Wave's medical bills would mean the world to Steph. If you feel called to donate, the link is in the show notes. As for me, my son is graduating high school and preparing for the next phase of his life. Actually, by the time this episode comes out, he will have graduated already. So a huge congratulations to him and all of the seniors graduating this year. With these transitions and Steph taking some time to heal and settle into her new home, we'll be releasing episodes every other Wednesday for now. This schedule will help us ease back into the podcast as we step into the busyness of summer. We are also hoping for more engagement with our listeners. If you have questions, stories to share, topics to suggest, or feedback for us, we'd love to hear from you. Please email us at soulfulmysticspodcast@gmail.com. To learn more about the wonderfully gifted and amazing Steph, please visit her website, soulfulstephanie.com. And if you'd like to learn more about me, check out my website, soulseekerhypnosis.com. Don't forget, we are both offering a 10% discount with coupon code SMP10, redeemable on both of our websites, and Steph and I both offer free consultations. If you're enjoying the podcast, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating and review. This really helps more people discover us. This year is all about growth, expansion, and exploring, and we hope you can be a part of that journey. Whether you share the pod with your friends or leave us a rating and review, please know that we genuinely appreciate you. In today's episode, I will be discussing a topic I've wanted to cover for a long time. Narcissism. It's a complex subject, but I've approached it in a way I hope is informative, sharing examples from my own personal experience. Although I recorded this episode days ago, I feel there's much more I could have said. I hope it's enough to bring awareness and understanding to what narcissism is, its characteristics, and to validate and empower those dealing with it in their own lives to start their own healing journey. Thank you for listening, and let's dive into today's episode. I've been wanting to do a podcast episode about narcissism for a long time. Since Steph and I began Soulful Mystics, I knew I wanted to share my experience with a narcissist, but also I knew I had to be ready. I am still working through this, however, with the work I have previously done, the support of my wonderful husband, and with Steph's help through an amazingly powerful past life regression she facilitated for me last summer. I feel like I'm ready to share this with you all. So for our return episode, it is just me today. I want to give a huge thank you to Steph for her support and encouragement to talk about this, and the space to do it in my own way. Today is May 23rd, and I believe tonight is the full moon in Sagittarius. Tomorrow it's my birthday, and I turn 40, and I am determined to release this shit and not carry it with me any longer. And you just gotta love divine timing, because I did not plan to record this on the full moon or even realize it until Steph pointed it out to me. That girl always has my back. Love you, lady. So over the past couple of years, I've noticed that I've become more sensitive to things energetically, and I think I've talked about this on the podcast before. I tend to get very physical symptoms that are related to energetic stuff. This is still new, and I'm learning to navigate it. I knew I was going to be recording this tonight, and I have been clearing my throat all day, but I feel like I just can't clear it. So bear with me. I'll do my best to cut it out if it keeps happening. Also, I've had a large pinkish reddish rash type thing on my throat. It's almost the size of a baseball. Yes, I've gone to the doctor, and no, the ointment they have given me hasn't helped. It keeps flaring up. It's getting larger and larger, and my spiritual friends keep asking me, what is it that I am not saying? And well, I think this is it, because I've wanted to talk about this for so long, and I just haven't. Also, too, I'm realizing that 2024 seems to be the year of truth. The truths are coming out, and I guess this is me speaking my truth. Steph has shared so much of her healing journey with you all, and it has really inspired me to talk about this. However, when you're talking to the public about something so personal that also affects many others and not just me, it's hard to know how to go about that in a safe and respectful way. Ultimately, I can only share my story, my perspective, how it affected me then, and how I'm learning to heal from it now. I can't speak for anyone else, and through conversations I've had with others, our perspectives are a bit different. I think this is partly because others were treated a bit differently than I was. With that said, I will be talking about narcissistic abuse by a parental figure, not by my actual parents. I just want to be very clear about that. My intention here is not to trigger anyone. However, if you feel this may be triggering, this may not be the episode for you. What I do hope is that if anyone is listening to this that has had a similar experience, I just hope that this helps in any way, even if it's just to open your eyes to what it is, because for most of my life, I didn't even know. Even if it just opens up a conversation about it to start you on your path to healing, I just hope that this episode helps even a little bit. For anyone who may not know, because I surely didn't until several years ago, according to Google, narcissism is characterized by an excessive focus on oneself and one's own needs, often at the expense of others. It exists on a continuum that ranges from normal to abnormal personality expression. I do agree with this, however, I did find another definition that I feel really nails it, and this is of narcissistic personality disorder, which involves a pattern of self-centered, arrogant thinking and behavior, a lack of empathy and consideration for other people, and an excessive need for admiration. Others often describe people with NPD as cocky, manipulative, selfish, patronizing, and demanding. There's also some traits of a narcissist, such as sense of entitlement, grandiose feelings, preoccupation with fantasies, believe they are superior, can come off as condescending or arrogant. This is also really frustrating because as I look back at some of this, a lot of it is really stupid. It doesn't seem to make any sense or seem like it was that bad. Not that I'm invalidating my experience, and I'm certainly not comparing anything here. It's just the perspective I always had. Before I get into it, is it fair to label this person a narcissist? Labeling is a frustrating thing. I try not to label, but at the same time, isn't that what it is? Is she just a person who has narcissistic tendencies? I don't know. I'm using these words based on my own learning and healing journey simply because she checks all the boxes mentioned earlier. And since I don't really know where to start, I'm going to start with the first time I remember hearing the word narcissist. My guess is it was maybe about 10 years ago. My husband and I, we were driving in the car listening to a podcast. It was probably Joe Rogan way back when. I can't tell you the episode or who was on it, but what stood out to us was when they said something along the lines of how children of narcissistic parents tend to overcompensate with their own children because of the experiences they had growing up at the hands of their parental figures. Yeah, when we heard that, it was like we just slowly turned our heads and looked at each other, and our eyes were huge. It was like suddenly my own behaviors as a parent made sense to us both, because I absolutely do that. It was like something finally clicked that day. It was absolutely true. As a parent, I was always trying to do the opposite of what I had growing up, even if it was extreme. I don't know. My husband and I would sometimes argue about this, but in my defense, I really didn't know how not to be the way that I am. I still struggle with this. Every decision I've made, every situation, I've compared it to how I would have been handled or how it would have been handled by this person when I was a kid. Maybe it's not a bad thing. I'm very proud of the relationship I have with my son, who is now graduating high school, but there are certainly some things I would have done differently if I could do it all over again. Mainly not obsessing over my past. I never forgot that day in the car, and suddenly I had this awareness that I didn't have before, but it would still be years before I really was able to dig into this part of me. I can't even remember how or when everything started. I know she came into my life when I was in the 2nd grade, maybe 3rd. At first, I thought she was really nice. I remember her buying me clothes, taking me to the beach, on picnics, going to state parks in the area, doing fun things with her friends, doing little arts and crafts projects, all sorts of stuff. She did things with me all the time. Things that probably made her look really, really good on the outside. And I don't remember exactly when things changed, but I'm pretty sure it was shortly after she moved in with us. Suddenly, she wasn't nice anymore. Not even sometimes. She always had a particular tone of voice she used, and I don't even know the words to describe it other than she talked to me like she thought I was stupid. Even as a young kid, it's hard to remember a time she wasn't condescending or patronizing, only using sarcasm and jabs. She was never not annoyed with me or annoyed with the fact that she had to give me the time of day. Most of the time, she didn't even talk. She yelled. God. And when you're so young, being talked to as if you're so stupid, you really do begin to believe it. Or even just being yelled at for no reason. It was really confusing as a kid because I didn't know why it was happening. I always just thought she hated me because that's how she treated me. What could I have done to make an adult hate me when I was only 7 or 8 years old? As an adult, I now see the blow that this was to my self-worth. I had no confidence in myself. I never raised my hand in class. I never spoke my opinion or shared my ideas, and if I did, I was always seeking some sort of validation without even realizing it. God, it's such mental fuckery. And now I see the conditioning, as if I was conditioned to believe no one would like me or care what I had to say. Anytime I would meet someone new, that was my first thought. They were not going to like me. I was extremely insecure. For years, I was so shy, and though I think I've come out of my shell, I look back and remember how I would hardly speak to new people. I was always the quiet one in the corner, or just sitting and listening to the conversation and hardly ever adding to it. I always felt as though I was walking on eggshells every single fucking day, because you never knew what would set her off. And honestly, it got to the point where I just didn't even want to listen to her go off. It was most likely over something so small, for example, the towels not being folded correctly, because that was a pretty common one. As I got older, it was so clear and obvious to me that she got off on the power she held over me as a parental figure who had authority over me. She would exaggerate things to get me in trouble, to make it sound like whatever I did wrong was way worse than it actually was. And this would keep me in trouble all the time. And then, of course, she would brag about it. Oh, Julie's in trouble again. Like, didn't anyone ever get sick and tired of hearing about it or think it was fucked up? Of course, I wasn't a perfect kid. I went through my rebellious stages and acted out, but this was mostly because I was accused of doing stuff I wasn't doing. So I just figured if I'm in trouble anyway, I might as well just fucking do it. And even then, whatever it was pretty minor. I really wasn't a bad kid. I didn't really even get to form long-lasting relationships with friends growing up because I was almost always grounded. Yeah. I just didn't get to hang out or spend much time with people. I was pretty much a loner. I got along with everyone in my small school and was never really a part of any certain clique or group of friends, and that's fine. But because I could never go out, because I was always grounded, I really never formed lifelong friendships. In fact, I'm not even really friends with anyone I grew up knowing. Sure, we're Facebook friends, and if I see them in town, of course I'd talk to them, but I mean, I never got to build long-lasting, lifelong friendships. I mean, before school ended, and we all go about our own lives. The friends I did have were afraid of her anyway. I rarely ever had friends come over to my house, and if I did, she would find some way to humiliate me in front of them. It was just part of her sick little game, and at a young age, I knew that. I knew it. She loved the power she had over me as an authority figure. Part of walking on eggshells was anticipating what she was going to say or do next, or spending my energy trying to figure out how she would react to something. It sure seemed like she got a lot of joy out of yelling at my friends when they called and I was grounded. Like, why would you call here when Julie is grounded? Because I guess they were supposed to know that being grounded by her meant no phone, no friends, no stereo, no video games, no nothing. It was all about control, which is why I feel like I didn't really get to have a normal teenage life. I feel like there's a huge difference, in my opinion anyway, of having control over your child and helping them to learn from their mistakes and helping them to correct their behaviors. These punishments didn't teach me anything, but they sure conditioned me to be afraid of everything, especially upsetting other people. I was probably more rebellious in some ways as a teen. There were times I would talk back, and I say that with air quotes, because really I was just trying to stick up for myself, but it never worked though. She had all the power, not me. And it was just fuel to the fire to get me in even more trouble. Just to give you a quick example of how she would twist things around to make me sound like more of the bad guy or like I was doing something wrong. An example is, one day I was leaving the house on my way to work. As I was stopping at the stop sign at the end of our road, I saw her driving towards me. And then this is the anticipation, the walking on eggshells, the trying to figure out what's going to come next. So in my brain, I'm trying to think, do I wave or not? And really, like, how fucking stupid to have to even worry about this. I chose to wave as she passed by me because I figured that was taking the high road, right? Wrong. You see, this was one of her many tricks. I was damned if I did, damned if I didn't. And if I didn't wave, I knew I would have gotten in trouble for that, being rude or whatever. But since I did wave, you'll never guess. I got in trouble for having my arm hanging out the window of the car. This is a perfect example of how she would exaggerate or embellish a story to make it sound worse than it actually was. I did not have my arm out the window at all. I just simply waved. No matter what I did, it was always the wrong thing. There was no pleasing her. Any opportunity she could or she had to twist and turn things around to make me look bad, she did it. This type of stuff was just an everyday occurrence, and it was honestly exhausting. And let's talk about holidays and birthdays for a second, because this was confusing as well. It even made me dread holidays, even as an adult. I never trusted the motives behind gift giving or birthday parties. In fact, I never even wanted to have birthday parties. And one time, I even stood my ground about not wanting to have a birthday party, and she threw a huge fucking fit, of course, because it wasn't about me. It was about her. I just didn't feel the kindness on Christmas was genuine. I hated decorating the Christmas tree because I was always getting yelled at. It was never done to her liking. But then on Christmas Day, it was supposed to be fun and exciting. That was confusing. And why would I want to even have a birthday party if she's just going to humiliate me in front of other kids? Yeah. All right, so I want to go back to that list of characteristics because I feel like I have examples for some of these as well. Sense of entitlement, believing they are superior, very self-absorbed. And some examples of this include buying certain foods that were only for her to eat. If it was something I really liked, I'd get in trouble for eating it. For example, Golden Grams. I could not eat her Golden Grams cereal. What the actual fuck? Going to restaurants was a goddamn nightmare, especially if it was in a large group, and most especially if alcohol was involved. It was so embarrassing. She was the loudest, and don't even get me started on if the server got something wrong or if something wasn't to her liking. She would yell and scream at them until she completely tore them down and got what she wanted. It was so uncomfortable and so embarrassing. And of course, the poor fucking server, or whoever it was. And this wasn't just at restaurants. It was anywhere in public. She would not hesitate to go off on any worker if she wasn't happy with something. It was her way or no way. There was no compromise here. She thrived off of attention. Unless something set her off from the outside, she came off as very charming. People always thought she was so beautiful, and people seemed to like her everywhere she went, unless things went sideways and she showed her true colors for a moment. People always loved her. I never understood this. Like, can't they see the things she does, or am I just crazy? As a kid, I never understood how anyone could treat others this way. And as an adult, I would never and could never treat anyone this way. It always drove me crazy how people were so blind to who she really was. Sure, if basing beauty off of what's on the outside, fine. But I think because I saw her true colors, I never saw her this way. How did the people who did know her put up with her and accept her behavior? Being a kid, it almost made me think it was acceptable to act that way. And there was no way I could get away from it until I was old enough to move away, which I did, across the country even. Now I see things differently. I think others were also in my position, even if it didn't look like it at the time. And I think keeping the peace became everyone's norm. And I can't speak for them. This is only my observation. The only way I can make sense of it anyways. The next one was preoccupation with fantasies. May have fantasies about success, power, brilliance, beauty, or the perfect mate. Again, I can only base this off my observation. But the thing that comes to my mind here is that she always had to impress people. For example, she had to buy a big, huge vehicle because her boss had the same one, the same car. She would always be buying herself new clothes, new shoes, but yet I felt like I couldn't even ask for anything I wanted. In fact, I never did. I never asked for anything. This is more conditioning. I am still working on this one, but I have so much guilt around spending money on myself, and why? I work for it, I earn it, and I deserve new things too, but I rarely spend money on myself in that way. My husband actually gets annoyed. He understands, but he's always encouraging me to buy things for myself, and I usually refuse. But buying things for my husband or my son, I never feel any guilt for. Like, why is that? Why is it different when it comes to buying something for me, but not for somebody else? I don't know. I'm still working on it. Belief that they are superior. So they may believe that they are entitled to special treatment, favors, praise, or admiration from others. Yeah. It was in the way she would talk down to people or even talk about other people behind their backs. There was something about her, maybe it was just in the way she held herself or presented herself, that you just knew she thought she was better than everyone else. Again, it's my observation, but she was part of my life for 22 years. This entitlement was apparent to me. The way she would get all up in arms over nothing, have a huge, ridiculous blow up for no reason, just to get her way. And I have realized that I am a chronic people pleaser. Or maybe I should say I'm a recovering people pleaser. Again, it's something I'm working through, establishing boundaries and all of the things. And I have learned I do this to simply avoid situations such as this, because if I can just keep everyone happy, I won't have to deal with the blow-ups and the unpredictable behaviors like this. But also, I've never met anyone else like her either. So, there's that. I'm feeling exhausted just thinking about all of these things. But it feels good to get it out and talk about it. The next characteristic is that they can come off as condescending or arrogant. Obviously, that's actually something she would say all of the time. All of the fucking time. Or, hello, like, you fucking idiot. I already mentioned the way she spoke to me or yelled at me, so I feel like we've already covered that one. Aggressive, dominant, and exaggerate their importance. Maybe very self-confident and are not sensitive. The confidence, yes. I mean, she was always right all the time. And no one could talk her out of it. The lack of sensitivity or empathy, abso-fucking-lutely. I did see her cry a couple of times, but was never convinced that they were true tears. I'm not just saying that to be mean. It's just what I truly believe. And if she made me cry, it would only make her angrier. Honestly, I'd try really hard not to cry in front of her. Not only to not have to deal with the burst of anger, but also I didn't want to show that I was weak either. I feel like I could go on and on. There's just a lot more to this, of course, but I can only speak for myself, like I've said before. And I do just want to be respectful of that for others that she affected as well, because I know that I'm not the only one. So why am I sharing this? Well, Like I said, she was part of my life for about 22 years. I'm grateful that she's not in my life anymore, but it has taken a toll on me. For many, many years, I felt just plain lost. I didn't have a clue who I was. There was a time I didn't even really know what my favorite color was, how I liked to dress, or what styles I liked, what my interests actually were. The list goes on and on. Because of this experience, I had learned to shrink myself down to be a small, quiet, obedient little Julie, a people pleaser. I had no self-worth, no confidence, no self-esteem. I believed I needed permission or validation for everything I did. Growing up with someone so completely selfish makes me feel absolute guilt whenever I treat myself to something special, which is rare, because the thought of anyone thinking I'm selfish is absolutely horrifying. The word no is not only uncomfortable, but it's hard for me to say, and I'm sure there's more that I'm just not even thinking of right now. I do want to say, though, that my husband is a saint. He has listened to me through so many tears and many meltdowns over the years when I break down over something I just can't get past, mainly a parenting decision or something, because everything I do as a parent, I have compared to an experience I had growing up, and the very thought of being anything like that would absolutely destroy me. Whew. In fact, the last time I broke down over this was last fall. I don't exactly remember when it was, but my husband asked me, "Why do you let her hold so much power over you?" And I just realized he was right. It was like the light bulb had finally come on. All this time, for so many years, even in my adult years, even after she was long gone from my life, I was still giving my power to her by allowing her to have such a strong hold over me. Fuck. I don't deserve to have this cloud over my head any longer. I don't deserve to have my kindness mistaken for weakness anymore. I'm going to be 40 tomorrow, and I am not taking this shit into my 40s with me. Fuck that. I feel like this conversation with my husband was the turning point for me. It was the moment I decided I was really going to do something about this. I already had been learning more about myself through my work in hypnosis, discovering things about myself I didn't even know existed. I realized through hypnosis how numb I had actually been and actually started to feel again. And not just physically or emotionally, but empathically as well. I guess this was completely shut down for me for so long. I remember taking my first meditation class about 4 or 5 years ago, and they would talk about feeling into your body, and I just had no idea what that even meant or how to even do it. But I can do it now. This conversation that I had with my husband really lit a fire under my ass, and I really thank him for that. I knew I had wanted to work through this in hypnosis for a long time, but honestly, I avoided it, and maybe it was because I just wasn't ready. Well, this conversation changed this for me. I immediately reached out to Steph, who basically dropped everything to do a session for me because she knew and understood how important this was for me. I was so scared. I remember beginning to feel sick to my stomach before we began, And I was anticipating seeing a life where maybe I was an abuser to her. I honestly expected this. I truly thought I must have done something awful to her in another life. Newsflash, that's not always true, and it certainly wasn't the case. Also, I should take my own advice here, because the first thing I will tell my clients is to be open-minded and expect the unexpected. As scared as I was for this session, it ended up being truly beautiful and one of the most powerful and profound sessions I ever had. And while I do believe healing can be a journey of peeling back layers, this was a huge leap forward for me. And I really truly feel like sharing all of this with you all today is another leap forward for me as well. I'm just so grateful to Steph for her brilliant facilitation, her strength and support, and her kindness. And of course, so grateful to my husband for so many years of helping me through this. His love and support, his wisdom, comforting me and allowing me space to overcome this on my own terms and in my own way. I am really excited to share this session with you all. It was a profound and wildly amazing session. It was my very first encounter with a dragon, and one I will never forget. And there was such a beautiful message and lesson learned. But not only that, I got to experience my light, my true essence, and it was truly incredible. Immediately after the session, I was able to throw away old photos she was in, things she had given me that I held on to for God only knows why, for reasons I don't even understand. Most of the Christmas decorations she gave me from when I was younger, all of it is gone. I really feel like I've come a long way, and I will continue to work on loving myself, treating myself with respect, setting healthy boundaries, using the word no and meaning it, and of course, not feeling the need to seek validation. I know I'm smart. I have some really fucking good ideas, even if I don't know how to bring them to life right away. And I am a grown-ass woman that will do whatever the fuck I want, including sharing this part of me with you all. Self-discovery is truly a beautiful thing. You know, I really love the color sage green. I found that out. It has been quite something breaking down these walls that I once built up to protect myself. And I'm really proud of the woman I am and the mom that I am. I have a really beautiful, strong relationship with my son, and I am so proud of that. And I'm really proud that I have finally worked up the courage to share this with you all. I also want to say that for many, many years, I carried so much hate in my heart towards this person, and that is just not who I am. It makes me sad that at such a young age, this is how I felt. But I no longer have hate in my heart. She really hurt me mentally and emotionally, but I don't have any ill wishes towards her. I do forgive her, and that's for me. That's not for her. That is for me. She's no longer in my life, and that will never change. You better believe I'll do a 180 so fucking fast when I see her at the Walmart, because I have done it before, and I will do it every time, because we live in a small town. I will just simply not subject myself to being in her company, because my energy is too precious. I truly believe that we are all on our own journey with our lessons. We have come here to learn, and maybe mine was to find my strength, to find me, and to learn to take my power back. And maybe she was supposed to play some kind of role in that, and whatever. I don't know. That's a lot to unpack there. But if anyone is dealing with anything like this, either as a child with a parent or now as an adult with a spouse, I truly encourage you to find your way back to yourself any way you possibly can. And please don't hesitate to reach out via email or on Instagram. Your stories matter. You matter. And if you want to talk about this, let's talk about it. I also want to share a book about this topic that was written by a local author here in my town who is also a survivor of narcissistic abuse. The book is called Brave Love 365 by Erica Nelson. It's a helpful tool for those who have dealt with narcissistic abuse. This book was lovingly written as daily inspiration. You can read it cover to cover, or you can do what I do. Pick up a book and flip to a random page intuitively and start reading it that way. I will be sure to link it in the show notes for anyone who would like to check that out. If you made it this far, I thank you for taking the time to listen, and I look forward to sharing my dragon session with you all in the next episode. And I want to end this episode by sharing something with you that my husband said to me recently, because I've spent 17 years second-guessing myself as a parent, wondering if I was doing things right. And my husband gave me the most beautiful compliment that I've ever received. He told me that I am the mom that everyone wishes they had. And I can't tell you how much that means to me. I'm very lucky to be married to him. Someone who is so emotionally intelligent and has helped me through so much for the last 20 years of my life. So, thank you, honey. I love you.
And that's it for today's episode. Until next time, stay curious.
Stay mystical.